For the past 9 months, I've been getting my Master's in International Studies from Penn and my MBA at Wharton, and I've gone through a lot of experiences that I never thought I'd go through. And today I want to share with all of you the 5 most important things I've learned, everything from little small things about my personality, all the way to lifelong lessons that I think I'll cherish until the day that I die. And so jumping straight into it, the first thing I learned was just simply how to be social again. And let me explain. To give you a little background about myself, when I was in high school, college, and working in San Francisco as an investment banker, I was pretty social, would go out very frequently and meet with friends every single weekend. And then I became an entrepreneur for the past 4 years before school started. And so during that time of entrepreneurship, any entrepreneur knows that it's kind of a lonely kind of work lifestyle, and you're kind of figuring things out on your own, and you're not necessarily hanging out with people all the time. So I started school last June in 2022 with about 70 people in my dual degree program, and then I traveled with 4 of them for about an entire summer in Korea, and then I came back to campus in August and met the rest of the 800 plus people in my class. And so let me give you guys a few examples of relearning how to be social and what that all meant. When I first met my class of 70 people back in June, I was pretty overwhelmed, and I was like, whoa, I don't know how to meet all these people and really connect with them. And that was a bit of a struggle. And the second anecdote I want to share is this past summer when I was traveling a bit with people, there was a person who I kind of became friends with who were saying things and kind of roasting me without always having the facts, and it basically bothered me. And so I actually ended up confronting that person, talking to them. But before I did that, I was just thinking to myself, like, man, am I like sensitive now? Because people who grow up with me know that I'm not really sensitive. Like, you can roast me all you want and I'll take it pretty well, and I will definitely roast you back. But that was a bit of like a question mark to me. But I think a large part of it was just readjusting from being by myself all the time and now traveling with people all the time and just meeting a ton of people. The second thing I learned is that the MBA is just one big giant filter, brand, stamp, whatever you want to call it. I'm going to explain this in 2 parts. First on the career side of things, and then second on the people side. And so starting off with the career side, what's just really interesting is that before you start your MBA experience, and then after you get in and then start recruiting for tech, banking, consulting, and all these employers are now coming to your school and just seeing if they're trying to recruit you, right? In between those 2 times, when you're before school and then when you're actually in school, nothing about you has really changed, right? It's not like you got more experience because you go straight directly from work to your MBA, but because you have this stamp of approval that now you go to an MBA program, even without any additional new skills, employers actually want you and give you this clean slate to allow you to recruit for them and actually heavily try to recruit you. And I just thought that was pretty interesting. Now, of course, getting into the school itself and all of that is an accomplishment. So some things have changed, right? But in a sense, your skills really have not changed at all. And so it just kind of made me think of, wow, we live in a society or world where we're not necessarily always hiring people or trying to work with people who just have the best skills for the job and are just really smart or whatever. But a lot of times we need these really convenient stamps of approval in order to make our lives a little bit easier in terms of figuring out how to recruit the best people, or the next part, which will be the more social and people side of things. So talking about the people side of things, I'm talking about dating. There are a lot of people who seem to want to find their husbands and wives in the MBA program, and that's totally fair. I totally would not be opposed to that. But I guess it's just interesting because it is like this thing, right? Where you have this filter of all these smart, educated people who are somewhat ambitious because they go to an MBA program, and a lot of, let's say, intermingling is happening within the MBA program. Now, if you're watching this video because you're trying to find your future spouse in your MBA program, just kidding, of course. If you're just trying to get into business school and one of the major obstacles in your way is studying for the GMAT, then there's one resource I highly recommend called Taget Test Prep, also known as TTP. When I was studying for the GMAT, I did a lot of research on Reddit, and what kept popping up was TTP. And what I really like about it is that it takes a topic by topic approach to make sure that you're ready for any question that pops up on the exam. Here's how it works. For both quant and verbal, TTP breaks down all of the individual topics that appear on the GMAT, and with them come lessons and practice tests ranging from easy, medium to hard that lets you hone your skills and master every single topic. TTP is a one-stop shop that covers both quant and verbal sections of the GMAT, and it's the only company on GMAT Club with a triple-digit 5-star rating. I really credit TTP a lot for helping me get a 750 on the GMAT, and if you use my link down in the description below, you can check them out for 5 days for just $1, so feel free to use my link down in the description if you're interested. All right, now moving on to the third thing I've learned from my MBA program so far is that you have to be a stone-blooded killer with your time. You have to be ruthless with your time. Time is an important resource for everyone in life, and I think in the MBA in particular, it really teaches you to prioritize and focus. To give you an example as to why it's so particularly important in the MBA, just this past week, I had 5 lunches and 5 dinners planned with individuals and groups, and then I had 5 straight events at night from Wednesday to Sunday, and then I also had to mix in school and then working on rareliquid, right? And so there was just so much to do all the time, and there's so little time. And so let me share with you guys 3 things that I've learned to do in order to really prioritize and focus. The first one is to do all the stuff that I don't necessarily really like to do in the morning. So that includes gymming because I know if I go to class and come back, then I will just not gym at night. And then the second thing is to prioritize my work first. So I always try to do my rareliquid work before any schoolwork because if I do schoolwork first, then I'll get tired and not work on rareliquid as much. And I actually have a bunch of assignments to do after making this video actually. And then the third thing is that I am learning still to get better at this, but it's really just being more intentional and saying no when you need to. I guess I kind of succumb to peer pressure as everyone does because there's so many fun events, but I'm getting better and better at making sure that I'm hanging out with people because I want to and not just going along for the ride because a lot of people are going to be there. The fourth thing I learned is that challenging yourself is a mindset. And personally, I think that if I'm not challenging myself during my MBA program, then I'm doing it wrong. At Wharton, there's a pretty overused phrase called stretch experiences, which really just means for you to put yourself out on a limb and do something that you would not otherwise do, but you're now in this MBA program. And so one silly example might be like someone who's really more spontaneous and never plans anything. And so this is like a real example where it'd be like, okay, haha, you planned this trip to Tahoe and this will be your like stretch experience, right? Because that person never plans anything. So it's kind of used more as a joke, but I do think there's some value in these kind of stretch experiences. I've found that it's really easy to just stay in your comfort zone in your MBA program if that's what you want to do. And if I had to be a little bit critical of myself, I don't think I really pushed myself enough to get out of my comfort zone. And I have 3 types of different goals I have, small, medium, and large, to kind of explain what I mean in terms of wanting to challenge myself more. Starting off with my small goals, I have 2. The first of which is pretty simple, which is to speak up more in class. You know, I'm the kind of student who always sits at the way back and doesn't really participate in class, but I've had a lot of classmates say really interesting things, and I've also had some thoughts where I didn't share it, and later I'd be like, man, I wish I actually shared that with my class because it's so valuable when my other classmates share. So that's one small goal I have. And then the second one is to partake in a military simulation called Quantico. And I think it would be like a fun leadership experience. I think it just happens over the span of like 2 days, but I think it'd be really cool to experience something like that. Moving on, I have one kind of medium-sized goal, which is to give a storytellers talk. And Storytellers is a club on campus that hosts these events where students come on stage and speak to about 150 people or so about their life story or something personal to them for around 10 minutes. And over the past 2 semesters, I've taken 2 public speaking courses, and I think it'd just be like a fun way to really push myself outside of my comfort zone. And even though I do talk to a camera all the time, I'm not speaking in front of people all the time. And I think it'd be a good way, or just a good experience in general, to also just share my story with my classmates. Lastly, my large goal is to join a club on campus called Follies. And what Follies is a 4-hour kind of Broadway-ish musical that's all student-led and performed. And I actually just watched it last week. It happens just once a year, but it was so entertaining. There's a lot of acting, singing, rapping, dancing. And I think, you know, I haven't performed on stage since Oliver Twist in like 6th grade. So I feel like joining that kind of thing would be super fun. I would probably join either to do like a small bit on stage for just a tiny bit, or be a writer. And I think even though I am technically like a content creator and stuff, I've never really worked in like a theater type experience and dedicate a lot of time into something like that. So I think I'm still thinking about it, but I think that would also be a great experience. The fifth and last takeaway that I got from my MBA experience so far is that everyone lives in their own little bubbles, and the MBA helps pop that bubble. And that's just kind of my way of saying that I've learned that the human experience is quite vast. I think back to when I was in investment banking, all I knew in my world was like finance. Should I work in private equity or a hedge fund? And I had a lot of friends who lived a certain lifestyle that was very similar to mine. And now in school, and MBA of course is its own bubble as well, but I have friends who were in the military, one who worked at the Olympics. Another classmate I sit next to is Brandon Brooks, who was in the NFL for 10 years and won the Super Bowl. And there's also someone in my class who was Miss Idaho, so people from all different types of backgrounds. This means that there can be a lot of really interesting conversations in the classroom, and a lot of the times I learn a lot more just from hearing my peers and what kind of experiences they've had versus the professors a lot of times, to be quite honest. And I would say that in a casual wine night or dinner or something like that, the topics can range from what dating is like in Turkey to racial inequality to communism in Russia. Like a wide variety of different topics can just come up. And I think that's a great part of the MBA experience overall, is just being able to listen to all these different perspectives and hear about their experiences. As you interact with people from different cultures and countries, I think it really shapes your perspective to be a lot more broader. And to give you a takeaway using me as an example, I grew up in the United States, and I realize now that I have a very America-centric point of view. And if you're not American, you know that America's not always right, but growing up, you're just always taught America number one. We may not have the best intentions all the time, but if we make a mistake, like it's okay for whatever reason. We have a lot of wealth inequality and racial issues and gun violence. And we do have a lot of bad pockets of our society and all of that. But still, America number one, we're the greatest country in the world, right? Like that's basically what I grew up with. And unpacking all of that and realizing, for example, when I met someone who like didn't like living in the US, I was like, what? Like, why are you even here getting an MBA in a US school then if you just want to go to like Europe or Asia or something like that? But I think all of that helps me realize that we have a lot of flaws as a country, and my very myopic way of thinking was not correct. All right, so that concludes the 5 most important things I've learned so far. But I wanted to also let you know that if you're interested in getting an MBA yourself, I'm building out a how to get into MBA course and giving out 50% discounts for people who sign up early. Feel free to check that out down in the description below. Also, don't forget to check out Taget Test Prep if you want to crush the GMAT. And lastly, if you want to learn what MBA classes are actually like, feel free to check out the video in the next screen. With that said, thank you all so much for watching. Hope to catch you all in the next video. Thanks so much, guys, and peace out.